I say now, it's like that was the most difficult time on this trip was those countries. It was arguably the easiest cycling in terms of what it was. It was just flat roads, but it was the most brutal, the most difficult cycling, and really difficult on the mental as well, because it's like you're cycling straight the whole time and you're not seeing anything. It's just desert. So you're not seeing anything. You got this brutal winds as well. It was just like almost soul destroying.
Welcome to the Seek Travel Ride podcast, where we share the stories and experiences of people who have undertaken amazing adventures by bike. Whether it's crossing state borders, mountain ranges, countries or continents, we want to share that spirit of adventuring on two wheels with our listeners. Hello, I'm your host Bella Malloy, and I'm excited to introduce my guest for today's episode of Seek Travel Ride, Malachi Frances. Malachi is currently in New Delhi, halfway through an adventure that when finished will have seen him pedal his bike all the way from the UK to Australia. He started off this journey with a friend in England. He cycled through European countries, crossed mountain ranges. He's met people from all walks of life, and now he's journeying through India. Malachi's adventure is one of contrasts. I'm super looking forward to finding out what led him to take the decision to load up the panniers for such a long journey, the friendships that he's made on the road, as well as, of course, the incredible landscapes he's encountered along the way. But also, listeners, we know bike tours aren't all tailwinds, sunshine, good food, and magic wild camp views. There are times when things don't go as planned. Plans get derailed, equipment breaks, and you're faced with illness or injury and other setbacks as well. I want to find out what it's been like in reality for Malachi during those challenging moments, dealing with these scenarios during a bike tour to the other side of the world, balancing those good times with those tough moments. Listeners, all that is to say, I'm certain we're in for a super awesome podcast session today. Malachi Frances, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Oh, I'm super pumped to speak with you, Malachi. In New Delhi there, in the background, I can hear the absolute chaos of that massive city.
It doesn't stop.
No, but Malachi, a question which I start my show with, and I ask it for all my guests is, Malachi, do you remember the very first bike you ever rode?
I do, actually. I think it was a small red one. It was when I was a kid. What brand was it now? I can't remember what it was, but yes, I do. It was a small red bike. I was more of a skateboarder, to be honest with you, though, so I wasn't too taken by it. As soon as I got my skateboard, I was like, just to get out of the bike. Yeah, to be honest with you, I would say my first proper bike was the bike I'm on now. And I bought that last year, April time. I've not been a cyclist for a very long time. I bought that bike last year, April, cycled for about 2 months, and then thought, all right, I'm going to go do a trip now. And I cycled from where I am in Horsham up to Snowdonia in North Wales, and then down the Welsh coast. Since then, I was like, yeah, I'm hooked. And then that was kind of I'm going to go cycle to Australia kind of moments.
A question I always have is that bit of intrigue, especially when I'm interviewing a long-distance traveller like yourself now, is what sparks the idea to set off on a trip? So I have to ask, okay, you had the red bike when you were a little kid, you preferred skateboarding, you bought a bike last year. Did you buy that bike for that trip to Snowdonia and down the Welsh coast? Or was it a case you had the bike and you went, oh, I'm going to go somewhere?
So I bought the bike with the idea and the thought of being able to use it to travel. So I really like my hiking. I like my long distance hiking and stuff like that. And I knew I wanted to go travel this year, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I saw a lot of people doing it on the bicycle, and I thought, oh, that could be cool. So I bought the bike, got to try it out first, did that trip, and then, I loved it, fell in love with it. I was completely hooked from then on.
Oh, I've got to ask, what was your magic memory, if I was to ask you now, the first thing that comes into your head from that first trip?
How naive I was, I think, how difficult it actually was. I kind of thought off, it's going to be easy. And I tell you now, Wales is not an easy place to cycle. There's a lot of hills, a lot of very steep hills.
That's what makes it pretty.
Yeah. But again, it was a beautiful trip. And it, again, taught me so much about myself in just a small 2-week trip and inspired this one.
Did you do that trip on your own?
Yes. That was on my own.
Because I know that you left for this trip with a friend. So did you inspire him to join you? Like, I'm picturing, Malachi, you've come back from this trip, you've learnt about it, and all of a sudden you've got an idea, wow, I'm going to cycle to Australia.
Yeah.
Did your friend Ralph hear these stories and get convinced to join you?
Yeah, pretty much. It was exactly that. So we started cycling a lot more after I did that trip. We started going out and cycling together, and it was kind of this each time little niggle. Oh yeah, but you could do this with me, I am doing this. I think he decided to join like 5 or 6 months before we left, actually. So I'd been planning this for about a year now, and then he decided about 6 months before. I'd convinced him, and yeah, that was it really. Because he loves his bikes, but he'd never done a trip before. So that was his first ever time cycling on a loaded bike and doing a trip. So again, really chucked him in the deep end with that one as well.
Definitely, because you know how you said at the start you were so naive when you set off for the Welsh trip. Did you sort of see that naivety in Ralph when he set off on this one? Or equally, had enough time passed that when you set off to go to Australia and when you rolled out from the UK, did it sort of hit you again that you were naive again?
Yeah, definitely. I think even the Welsh trip, it's a different ball game, isn't it? Because you're still in England, right? More or less. I mean, you're in Wales, but it's just a case of it's a train home.
Mm.
And I guess again in Europe as well, there's those moments where it's like, oh well, you could go home. But yeah, I think we were both very naive. That first week was very difficult, very difficult. We had never cycled like that together either. So, it's also getting used to one another and how the other one works. But these are normal things, you grow after. I always say to someone, anyone can do this, but you just give it 2 weeks. If you can make it past the 2 week points, then you're solid. You can do anything. And that's it. The first 2 weeks are always the worst, or at least the hardest in terms of getting your grip, getting in the groove of things. But after that, it's more or less, you've got a good idea of what's going on.
Do you ever think it's a blessing that those first 2 weeks on a trip, it's a given leaving from the UK the way you did, that you're still going to be sort of in Western Europe for the first 2 weeks? You might be speaking a different language in countries, but things are there is a familiarity about them, as opposed to where you are now in New Delhi. Could you imagine setting off in New Delhi for your first 2 weeks?
Yeah. I mean, if we had set off in Asia, in where we are now, and some of the countries I've been in, I mean, I think we probably would have been a little bit screwed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is a real blessing to be able to have started in Western Europe because, it's like if anything goes wrong. And it did, I think, because the first day we got to France, everything went wrong. Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong.
I want to know what went wrong on that first day.
Oh, what was it? I think my derailleur cable came out and the guy who had put my bottom bracket in back at home decided he didn't want to put the spacer in. So the whole crank was moving like side to side. So, So that was not great. That wasn't great. So I needed to get that fixed. Second day I was in, so it all happened on that first day. Had to go the second day, get it sorted. Yeah, and I think something happened with Ralph's bike as well, something. I can't remember. There's a little bike issues, but as standard.
And there's been a few more since then, no doubt, as well.
Oh, there's been a lot. Yeah, there's been a lot. Nothing that hasn't been solvable. Currently, I'm in a point right now where my shims were lost. So I'm trying to figure out a way to get my box to stay in at the minute. Gonna have to go to a local metal shop around the corner and see if they can cut a pole in half for me.
Again, this is the problem solving. You don't even know these type of problems that you're going to have to solve.
No.
But you sort of look at yourself now, Malachi. How many months into this trip are you? And all of a sudden, you've just gone straight into problem solving mode.
Yeah, you have to, because I mean, it's one of these things you can either panic and then you don't get anything solved. And there's definitely been times where I panicked and you don't think it. You just be like, okay, well, what am I going to do now? How am I going to sort this out? And you got to do that. Otherwise, you're just not going to have fun. You're really just not going to enjoy yourself as much. Because it's all part of the journey, isn't it? These struggles and these things.
It sort of reminds me of, years ago, I dabbled into the sport of ultra cycling, like ultra endurance sort of type of racing, and riding stupid distances in one day and then following it up the next day and the next day. And I remember there was always a mantra that went around in that sort of ultra-distance bikepacking community, especially when it came to events, never scratch at night time, like never make a decision to pull out at night time when you're low. And I remember it was actually a podcast I listened to, and the host of that show was like an ultra cycling coach, and he said, if you're low, stop, eat something, have a coffee or a drink, just wait, you'll figure it out. But, as I know we're talking about a total different mode of a sport here, but do you find with touring a bit of that could make sense too? Like in those moments, like just having the wherewithal to put yourself on pause, just to give yourself some space to think of a solution?
Yeah, I completely agree. You have to. I always say that you're never going to quit. Because it was why I kind of hate sitting for so long, like I have been now. It's like you're never going to quit when you're on the road. You quit when you stop.
Mm.
And, sometimes it's a case of just don't stop, just keep going. But then sometimes you do need to give yourself that hour or so just to decompress and just relax. It's something I've been thinking about a lot recently, actually, because there's always kind of been this idea of the time in my back of my head. Like Europe, we had a time frame because Ralph was going to go to university. We wanted to do it in 2 months. And then it was the case I was trying to get in time to meet Jamie in Cappadocia. And then it got really slow again when me and Jamie did the rest of Turkey, which was amazing. And then same with Georgia again. But since I've got to the Stans again, you got 30 days in Kazakhstan, 30 days in Uzbekistan. And it was just brutal. It was a case of, I just want to go. And I think now I just want to take it easy, just enjoy myself. Because I'm in a place of the world that I've always wanted to be, and just to soak it up now. I think it's all about pace. It's all about just knowing what your body's telling you to do, right?
Allowing yourself to do what that means for the day. But I guess there's also an element, when you're on a time frame and a schedule, you're exactly on that. You're on a time frame. You're on a schedule. There's a deadline. There's kilometres that need to be ridden consecutively each day to get to the end point. Do you find now, if you're free of that schedule, you've got a bit more flexibility and the ability to take things in a bit more around you? Mm-hmm. I guess another way to phrase that, actually, Malachi, did you find when you were in those moments where you were on a schedule, you were passing places quicker than you wanted to, and you felt like you weren't actually experiencing what you were riding through?
I think sometimes, definitely sometimes you do feel like that. I'm a photographer, I like to take pictures. I think that's even the same when I've been trying to take pictures, and it's like, you should have taken that picture.
You never regret taking it.
No, you're never going to regret taking it. You're always going to regret not taking it, right? Yeah, there's definitely been moments where I felt like that. It's that balance, right? You got to keep balance, because I always tell myself that you can't take every photo. Sometimes you got to keep it for yourself. Yeah, it's about knowing that balance. You got to do what feels right to you at the time, right? And everyone's cycles in a different way. Some people aren't there to see everything. Some people are there to just cycle because they love the sport, there's a lot of different bikepackers out there now that approach in a very different way.
In a very different way. Some people, I interviewed an awesome adventurer, Marielle Yowring from Sweden. Hello, Marielle. In fact, she may well be in India now. Her days are ridiculous. Like, she thinks she's doing a small day if she's doing, 150 to 200 kilometres or something.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. Power to it. She can do that.
Yeah,
but conversely, I've interviewed people where they feel that sometimes if they travel 50 kilometres in one day, they're going too fast. And, everyone has a different style. A question I actually had for you, Malachi, was because you have done sections of this trip with one other person or a few other people even at a time. And then you have also had the other experience on the other end of the spectrum of being on your own. How has that felt at different times?
Yeah, I think I've been with people more than I have been on my own. I think I was probably only on my own for about 2 weeks. Originally, I was going to be on my own. This was it. It was going to be on my own. So Ralph, when he came with me to Thessaloniki, which was always the plan, he was going to go to university after. And then it was a case of I was on my own. And I think at first when he left, I was quite nervous. But then I'm someone who likes his own company. I'm very comfortable on my own. I do a lot of stuff on my own at home anyway. All my cycling was more or less done on my own. So I was excited for that side of things, to just take it on at my own pace. Because, with cycling with other people, you got to take into consideration other people's feelings and how they decide to approach different things. So I think for that element, I was really excited to just be on my own and to see how that was going to be. And I had a great 2 weeks. I really enjoyed it. I really, really enjoyed it. But you do get lonely. There are those times. I think I was calling my parents a lot more on those times as well. It's nice to have a chat at the end of the day, isn't it? And just decompress and chat about the day, the goods and the bads. So cycling with people was always a little bit more enjoyable, I would say, for sure.
I think moments pass differently and days just you're experienced differently in the company of others as well. Like, you've got conversation as your distraction, but it's not the conversation you're having with yourself.
Exactly.
Which I think can get quite heavy sometimes if you're day after day on your own too. But that can also be like moving meditation sometimes. And I've spoken to guests who said they've learnt so much about themselves and learnt to be happy with themselves because of those days on their own.
Yeah. I think you definitely have, when you're on your own, you definitely have those conversations with yourself a lot more. And you have to, I think, almost dig a bit deeper, because I know there's been times where I've been with Jamie and Dragos, and there's times that I would have stopped cycling, but they were like, no, let's keep going, man. And it's difficult. Those first, they're like, oh, I really don't want to. And they give you that push, and that can help. So at the end of the day, you're like, oh, cheers for pushing me, guys. So yeah, it's different. I mean, I don't really know how this trip would have gone if I'd been on my own. I think it would have been a very different trip. And maybe I wouldn't be as strong of a cyclist or as far as I am now if I hadn't had them. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess that you'll always not know, but in a way that sort of doesn't matter either, does it? Like,
No.
if you cast your mind forward towards Australia, and of course with the understanding that things never go as planned, but what are the plans from here to Australia? Are you planning on cycling with others still where possible? Are you planning on, like, is there a section where you go, no, this is going to be me on my own from here?
I've no plans, to be honest with you. Ideally, I would like to meet back up with Jamie now. Obviously, we've got to play that by ear. He's got about maybe a month and a half ahead of him still before he even enters India. Yeah, I mean, ideally, I'd like to see Jamie again. I'd like to do some more cycling with him. But I mean, I've got no plans. There's not necessarily places I want to do on my own, particularly. It's just see what the road has in store for me.
I have to ask, did you know Jamie before this journey?
No. So he dropped me a message when I was in Thessaloniki for about 2 weeks. He said, oh, I've entered Turkey. Well, he was in Istanbul at the time. And he was like, yeah, I'm in Turkey now. I'm going to start cycling. Maybe we should meet up if it works. And I said, yeah, that sounds good. Maybe Cappadocia, because that's kind of the halfway point. And obviously he went down the coast and I went straight through. I think I was cycling loads because I was like, oh, this guy's he's quick. Don't want him to get there before me and then I miss him. So I was cycling really quick and I got sick going up there. And it turns out that if I didn't get sick, I would have been there before him and maybe we wouldn't have met up.
Twist of fate.
Yeah.
Because actually you got sick. Am I right? Was that when you had to like stay still? You were in the one place for like 2 days in like a tea house or something?
Yeah.
Tell me about this. I need to know what the... And look, I know it wasn't a magic experience because you were sick, but what was it like being cared for in a place that was totally foreign to you beforehand?
Yeah, so it was my biggest day on the trip so far. I think I'd done like 100-mile day, really pushed it. It was hot Turkey. I got some water from a gas station. Anyway, I rocked up to this gas station. They weren't selling anything. I said, do you have any water? He gave me a bottle of water. I didn't hear the click. I didn't really think anything of it with the bottle. I drank the water, filled up all my bottles, gave it back to him. As I'm about to cycle off, I can hear him filling it up from the tap. I'm like, oh, damn. I thought, it's fine. It's from his house. It's going to be fine. Got to camp, set up camp, and then I think it was like 1 o'clock in the morning. I woke up instantly. And this had happened to me on my Welsh trip as well, where I drank water that made me sick. I almost instantly knew what was going on, and I was like, oh, shit. And it wasn't a very fun night. There was nothing. I was in the middle of nowhere in like a freaking desert or something like that. So I could see on Google Maps that there was this strip that said it had 2 petrol stations and a shop. So I was like, all right, I'm going to have to get down there. It took me about 25 minutes to get maybe a mile down the road. It was awful.
Sounds brutal. I can just feel your illness.
Yeah. The petrol stations weren't open. The shop wasn't open. And I was just sitting outside the shop and I saw some guy happen to walk past and I asked him when the shop opens, explained to him that I'm not well, I've drunk water that's made me very sick, and he said, go to the tea house there, he'll help you. So I went in, basically showed him the same message, and he said, yeah, that's fine, just opened the door to this room and said, you can sleep there. It was just a couch with a table. Admittedly, there was like a bigger crate of rotting tomatoes and then another crate of rotting chilies. So there's a lot of flies in there. It wasn't the best smell in the world, but I was incredibly grateful. Didn't ask anything of me. Just said, you can stay here, just, rest. And I stayed there for 2 days and just rested.
Drinking Turkish chai.
No, I couldn't even drink anything. That was all. That was the worst. Is when you can't, you're so thirsty, and you can't drink, you can't eat, nothing would stay down. Yeah, it's a horrible, horrible feeling. After the second day, I kind of came right to bed. Just had a really, really bad headache.
Dehydrated, probably.
Very dehydrated. Yeah, using the toilet quite a lot, shall we say?
Hopefully not both ends.
No, well, it was on the first day. On the first day, I was throwing up a lot as well. Yeah, it was really rough. It was rough, that one. Thankfully, it's not happened again.
Because that's a moment where you're actually physically really weak. Mm-hmm. And that's where the mental part has to kick in, right? That resilience from inside, from a mental point of view. There are times when those type of low moments where you question whether you really... Where the idea of just being in a comfortable bed at home where you can drink water from the tap and not worry, like, do those things come into your mind at all? Or is it more, gosh, I can't wait to get better, I really need to get back on the road?
Yeah, I don't think that knocked me as much. I think there's definitely been maybe lower moments, I'd say, but I at no point was I like, oh, I really don't want to quit now because of something like that. Like it's fleeting, right? That's fleeting, that stuff. It's not a case of you can't continue. It's just a case of you've got to rest. Yeah. I mean, obviously there's times you're like, hey, I wish I could drink some tap water or have a bed or just be at the comfort or back in a routine or something. But at the same time, you get that same thought, well, actually, but then I wouldn't be here, I wouldn't be in this amazing situation I'm in now. I think that always trumps the thought of comfort, right? For me, at least.
Oh, 100% understood. And I wonder then also, actually, this brings me to something else. You've obviously wild camped a fair bit on this journey as well, and you're traveling to the other side of the world, so you've considered everything that you've taken with you. It was a question a guest asked me personally recently, and I thought, this is an awesome question. I'm going to ask it to my guest now. And it was Laura McMillan. Hi, Laura. She was in Tanzania. I don't know if you've moved on from there yet.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, she's on a 5-year epic journey through Africa.
Oh, sweet.
Her question to me was, what's your one luxury item that you take with you on tour? What do you think your luxury item is? Something that you know you could totally do without, but you're taking with you. And I know you're a photographer, Malachi, and I'm going to say that your camera's not one of them because I feel like your cameras are not negotiable.
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. Luxury item, maybe a second jacket. Maybe having 2 jackets.
That is luxurious.
Maybe 2 jackets, because I've got a down jacket and I've got like a synthetic one, so... Being able to alternate between the two is nice, I guess.
Which is serving you really well in hot and humid New Delhi now, right?
Right. Well, that's the thing, because I brought it and it served me great in the stans and the points in Europe, but now it's like, from here on out, it's just pointless. Just pointless.
Actually, I want to reverse this up a bit. We've skipped so far along while we're covering some great conversation here. You know, you've already hinted that there's no direct plans here, and because you are aware things need to be flexible, but you can't set out from the UK to Australia without a rough idea of where you're going to head to.
Yeah.
When you were in that planning phase, because you said you took 12 months to sort of work out that this trip was going to happen, how did you go about your planning? Like, what sort of things were you planning out? And I guess another way to put it is, what sort of milestones were you looking forward to?
Route planning was just a case of I had commute and I kind of just, they have nice little interesting points on the bicycle touring thing. So was doing stuff like that. Again, like very naive with my planning. I just kind of planned this one route and was like, yeah, that's the route. And up until the end of Europe, and that was it. And within the first week, me and Ralph scrapped it. We were like, yeah, this is a shit route. This is not working well. Because I think I planned it on gravel or something. So we were just getting chucked on the most outrageous roads 24/7.
Oh, misadventures.
Yeah.
It's like a route mapping fail.
Yeah. So it was a fail completely. We were both like, yeah, let's scrap this. So we then started doing it day by day with a rough idea. Yeah, I think up until like Bolzano in Italy, we pretty much just did it day for day as a rough way of where we're going. So originally we weren't even supposed to go into Italy. And we just, on a whim, was like, you go to the Dolomites, because, like, why not? It's beautiful. And we did. And I think that's another way I like to say to people is that, like, don't be too hung up on a route, because I've done it a lot in the past, even on this trip, where you get hung up on this one route that you've made to do a whole country in. I don't know what it is. I prefer just not having a massive route planned. It's just, and it's you kind of you stress yourself out. You feel like, oh, I have to do this amount today, or I don't know what it is. I prefer to do it a little bit more loose. So it's just you enjoy yourself a bit more, keep some excitement going,
Yeah, and, allow the serendipity of the unplanned and things that you didn't know existed come your way. Not knowing what the next day is going to bring, not knowing what to expect, but being happy at what you've come across. Like, there is that beauty of bike travel too.
Exactly. And I think it's nice as well because then you allow for other people to give you recommendations. And I've had that before where people are like, oh, you should go down there. And you do that because you've not got this headstrong idea of, I've got to stick to this route,
I guess there's times where there is only one route as well, so there are no choices to be made. Am I naive to say that? Like, when you're going through endless desert stretches in Uzbekistan, do you have many choices of which way to go?
No. Kazakhstan, we pretty much had, no, not at all. Not at all. From Russia to Kazakhstan to where we were going to get to Uzbek, it's pretty much one route. Uzbek, pretty much one route more or less to... If you want to do all the cities, it's just one route, really. Yeah, there's no deviation.
So no decisions needed?
No.
I guess the only decisions made there is where you're going to stop each night.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, incredibly difficult countries as well to cycle through, I'll be honest. So remote. Entering Kazakhstan, the first cache point is in Ataral, which is about 180 miles or so, I think, away. And the same situation happened in Uzbek, where the first cache machine is almost in Nupus, I think just the town before, which is again like 160, 180 miles away, which is just insane.
Yeah, we're talking miles, not kilometres here, people.
Sorry, I work in miles sometimes.
No, but that is huge. I mean, 100 miles is 160 kilometres, so almost just under 200 miles for some of those.
It's insane, yeah, it really is. And that will break you. I mean, I say now, it's like that was the most difficult time on this trip, was those countries. It was arguably the easiest cycling in terms of what it was. It was just flat roads. But it was the most brutal, the most difficult cycling, and really difficult on the mental as well, because it's like you're cycling straight the whole time and you're not seeing anything. It's just desert. So you're not seeing anything. You got this brutal winds as well. It was just like almost soul destroying, if I dare say. Really, really hard.
You know how we've mentioned a couple of times you're a photographer, like there is the visual aspect of a journey which motivates and drives you on as well.
Mm-hmm.
And when everything is just an endless flat horizon with indescript barren desert around you, like you probably wish for like a magic sunset, sunrise, or a dreamy night sky with stars, but there's so much that happens in between any of that.
Yeah.
The things that would motivate you normally visually along the way are totally taken away as well.
Yeah, but I think I enjoyed it from a photographic perspective. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I got some incredible shots there. I think it really pushed my photography because as you said, there's not as much to shoot, or it's not as stimulating. So you tend to look at things a little differently, and things you do see stand out a lot more.
Yeah.
So something maybe you pass over in another country, now looking at a bit longer. And obviously the desert heightens everything. I mean, you've got these pictures of, it's just I can't remember which one, like a house in the desert, and it's just this barren background, and it's a contrast between the two. So from a photographic point, I thoroughly enjoyed the stars. And the sunset, the skies were just like, you can't even describe them, the colors you see there. Just incredible. So incredible. Were
you able to do any like star photography while you were there?
No, so unfortunately the camera I have can't really get those shots. I went for the option of small compact, so it's quick and easy to shoot. So I got it in my pocket all the time. So I shoot when I'm riding as well now. So for me, that was what I wanted. I wanted it to be quick.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you do, because Malachi, and look, we should just quickly give a shout out to your socials. This is totally how I came across your trip, and I've been tuning in probably almost every day because you've been providing an overview of what you've been encountering each day. But if people want to follow your journey on the socials, how can they find you there? What's your account?
So Malachi_cycles, and only on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's where I post everything. I've got links to other stuff in there as well. So yeah, you can hit me up on that. You can see my Strava as well if you want to.
Listeners, I'll provide links to that in the show notes so you can hit up Malachi, give him a follow and watch his journey from when our conversation stops to where he goes to in Australia. But what I was going to say, Malachi, is I know you put your daily reels together, or it feels like daily reels, but what I really appreciate are when you actually collectively group your photos from a longer sort of period of time through a country together, because you know, you may not have the star photos, but I really do appreciate the artistry and the talent in your compositions. You know, the cliche, a picture tells 1,000 words. Each of your picture tells 1,000 experiences. It really is a photographic journal of what you've experienced on the road.
Thank you. No, that means a lot. And yeah, I think I attribute that also to where I studied. I studied on a really incredible course. I studied documentary photography at the University of South Wales in Cardiff. It's such an incredible course. It taught me so much, not just about photography, but about myself, about the ethics, how to approach people, which I apply to this trip all the time. It's like a way of seeing almost. So it's like every photo there's so much to take in when just taking a photo. It's not just this quick thing of taking the photo. Like there's a lot of photos I've taken that, you know, you go back and you're like, maybe I shouldn't share that photo. And you think about it more because photography is a powerful, powerful tool. And as you said, it says 1,000 different things. It
does, and it conveys emotion as well a lot of the time. I love photography. I see moments in those photos and experiences, like I said.
Yeah. I completely agree. And I love that the fact that my photo can move people that way and they can feel the emotion of it is amazing to me. And that's all I want to do is convey that and try and share my experience, because that's all I can do at the end of the day. Like a photo is a split second in time. It's not a reality to anyone but me in that split second. And even so, that's not my reality because everything changes after that shutter hits anyway. Being able to tell that story in that moment of time is, you know, it's a privilege that I'm able to do it like that and to share that with people.
You know, I ask real impossible questions to guests all the time, it feels, each and every week. And this is a super impossible one, Malachi, because I don't know that I'd be able to answer it. But you know what? It's my show and I get to ask the questions. Is there an image that you're most proud of? Or a selection of images, maybe even from like a set day that you're most proud of then?
Yeah, that is a difficult one. Wow. I don't know. I think I've really enjoyed the photos I've done from the stars. I think out of all my photographs, those have been the ones that I can see myself progressing the most. Yeah, in terms of a favorite photo, I really don't know. Funny enough, I really like the one I got from Russia, actually, in Dagestan, of a cross with the sun setting in the background. I really like that one a lot. Colors in it are really, really nice. But yeah, no, I don't know if I can answer that one.
Oh, it's ridiculously hard.
Yeah.
It's also how many photos are taken before you know, I've seen a selection of images, but if you're like me, often you come up with like 10 photos of slightly the same but different type of scene in one before you land on the one you're going to focus on more directly as well.
Yeah, exactly.
But I guess this sort of links back to what we were talking about earlier in terms of route mapping and stuff. And I can understand you got rid of the commute route early on and it just wasn't working. But roads to take and stuff like that aside, what were the milestones and places you were especially looking forward to? What were the sort of non-negotiables I definitely want to visit here on this journey?
Obviously the first one was the Alps. You know, that was the big one. Like, can't wait to get to the Alps, can't wait to see what it's all about. That was the big one. And then, yeah, in Europe there wasn't necessarily, it was just get back to the coast after that and get to the sea again, which is the first time was in Tirana, I think, in Italy. Yeah, I mean, in Europe it was just see as many mountains as you can see. And we did a really good, because we did the Dolomite. No, yeah, we did the Alps first and then up until Timmelsdorf, which is a pass between Austria and Italy. So you climb up the Austrian side and then you descend down into the Italian side, which is immense. And then, yeah, did a big tour of the Dolomites. And then Croatia, yeah. And then I think after that, it was just get to Thessaloniki. And then for me, the other big one was Cappadocia. That was a big milestone for me because it was incredible. I mean, I'd seen it in so many other people's like videos and I'd always wanted to do it. So that was I think out of everything, that was the big one. Like, yeah, I can't wait to get to Cappadocia and see that.
And when you were there in that moment, did it live up to your expectations or exceed them even?
No, yeah, I don't think it exceeded them in any way. I think it was just, it was exactly what I wanted it to be. Yeah, if that makes any sense. It was exactly what I wanted it to be, and it was nice because that was when I met Jamie. Me and Jamie shared Cappadocia together. That was the first time we were together, and I think that made it a lot more special as well, being with him there and just meeting him. And yeah, it was amazing. It was a really amazing 2 days because we spent 2 days there. First night just got a really nice view, and the other night was by as they are called, the penis rocks, where we just bivvied out and stepped by these big phallic rocks.
Yeah, very phallic rocks. I've seen them before.
Yeah. So yeah, it was lovely. It definitely lived up to the expectations. And then after that, there were none. Again, like no expectations and no milestones per se, but still some amazing cycling.
I always say there's places where the surrounding nature makes you feel about the size of an ant.
Mm-hmm.
And I imagine you've had that a few times on this journey, even when you're in the vast, barren landscape of a desert.
Yeah. You really feel just so insignificant there. It's just like there is nothing. Like, Yeah, there's definitely moments like that where you feel so small and so, alone almost. Like you're in the middle of nowhere. If anything happens now, no one's coming for you.
Yeah, it's like I'm just this little insignificant soul pedaling 2 wheels along the landscape, and this is going on. And, and it doesn't have to be a landscape desert, or it doesn't have to be when you're facing the worst of Mother Nature in a rainstorm, headwind, sandstorm, whatever. It could also be those beautiful views you were talking about in the Dolomites. The Dolomites is such a picturesque region.
Yeah, I can't even describe it, right? The mountains are so unique. They're so unique.
Conversely, though, Malachi, wild camping in Cappadocia would have been an ultimate wild camp high spot, right? Like it would have to probably make your top 5 lists of where you've wild camped, maybe.
Oh yeah, sure.
I want to go to the other end of the spectrum. I want to know where's somewhere that you've wild camped which was not so glamorous. Like what's the least glamorous wild camp you've had to set up on this journey?
Done a few actually. Done quite a few. Mainly in Europe, funny enough, because I guess you kind of push to try and go as quiet, as sneaky as possible. We slept in a few tunnels. Me and Ralph did. Beauty in a tunnel, which was that was a bit dingy, that one.
When you say tunnels, are you sort of like talking like a culvert, like under a road or something?
No, I mean it was a fort. It was a fort, some old fort town, I think in France.
Yeah.
The fort had some tunnels in it, basically, which was just in the side of a wall, pretty narrow. You probably couldn't even stretch your arms out wide enough. Yeah, we slept in there because you couldn't be bothered to set up our tents. We're like, let's just sleep in here, and did that. Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've had anything too bad per se, but mainly just when you in Europe, when you just bivvy in some shitty spot. Actually, no, I do. It was Italy. It was one of the worst camps I had was Greece, actually, in a playground, because we couldn't cycle because the rain was so bad, and it was just like infested with flies, like big flies.
Getting you ready for Australia.
Yeah. I mean, right now I'm covered in bites anyway. You got here, I've not had mosquitoes in weeks, and I've got here and I'm covered in bites already. Yeah, so in terms like that, that wasn't great. I had a pretty dodgy experience in Italy with a man rolling up to my tent at night, so that wasn't too fun.
What, sort of like aggressively or something, or trying to move you on?
I mean, yeah, I'll go into it. It was my biggest day of that day so far of the trip. I've done like 84 miles, and big day for me. Really tired, really hot. Was just wanted somewhere to camp. I wasn't really anywhere to camp. So I was kind of having a look in this graveyard. Man came up to me and asked me how I was, but I was up to kind of explain to him. His English wasn't very good. And I said, do you reckon I could camp just outside the graveyard? He said, yeah, all good, that's fine. Then showed me where I could get some water from the tap in the graveyard. Then said, I'll bring you back some ice cold water and a beer later. Amazing, thanks mate. So he left. I set my camp up, had my dinner. Got to about 9 o'clock and the sun was about to set. So I was like, okay, this guy's probably not coming anymore. So I went to bed. Fell asleep, and it got to about 11:30, 12, and I was woken up with a torch being shone in my tent. And admittedly, at this time, I wasn't putting the fly over my tent, so it was just my bike mat, basically. I was like, well, what's going on? Didn't know who it was, didn't see, and then kind of saw it was him, and I was like, oh, you're right, and got up my tent. And he then proceeded to say, like, telling me he's going to bring around his car, and then told me how beautiful I was. And then proceeded to tell me that he wanted me to have sex with him, and kind of kept persisting with that. And then I got a little bit annoyed, and then he kind of got the memo at least, and he was like, "Oh, sorry." shook my hand, and they said these things happen, and he left. And yeah, that wasn't very fun. But arguably not the worst part of the night either, because then I was kept up all night by just kids driving their motorbikes up and down the street, smashing bottles, playing music till about 4 a.m. Wasn't a great night, that was for sure. Yeah, it wasn't a great night.
Definitely not an idyllic spot whatsoever.
No. A day after that, I crossed the border to Turkey, so yeah, it wasn't great. It wasn't great, but took me back a little bit because you kind of just trust people on these trips.
It's not what you were expecting.
No. You kind of put in a situation where you do just trust that the stranger has your best intentions, right?
And the majority of them do, to be fair.
Exactly, the majority of them do. And I've never had a bad situation since then either. And I wouldn't even say that was necessarily a super bad situation because he was still...
It was a misunderstanding, maybe.
Maybe, I don't know. He was still very polite about it and everything like that. Didn't let it jade me and change my perception of that I'm not going to trust people now. It was just one of those situations that was like, this happened, it is what it is, I'm not going to let this change how I interact with people from moving forward.
There is an element also where it's sort of trusting your instincts as well. We're talking about not letting it jading you is one thing. I guess there's also your instincts in a situation. I'm not talking about that one. I'm talking more about going forward in other places as well.
Mm-hmm.
You do get a general instinct of when you're somewhere that is good and somewhere that may not be so good, and people and their genuineness, and whether you're somewhere that's not quite right and your safety may be not questionable.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine overwhelmingly it's at the other end of the spectrum, but there would be an element of also trusting your own instincts and your experiences to that point too.
Oh yeah, sure, for sure. Yeah, I mean, instinctually there's been plenty of times where I'm like, yeah, let's just keep moving, this is not it. Definitely plenty of times like that. But yeah, I always say, you've got to trust your first instinct. If you get a bad vibe at first off the bat, then it's probably for a reason. You know what I mean?
When we're talking about dangerous situations, I want to know what it was like on the dangerous road in Turkey.
Oh.
Is the danger hyped up, or did you cycle along that route and go, yeah, fair play, that is a dangerous road?
So, for bicycles, it's okay. But, it's open to cars, which is baffling to me that road is even open to cars.
Where is it? Where is this in Turkey exactly?
It's close to the Black Sea. So we descended right down into OF, right next to Rize.
Mm-hmm.
So you start the day off in pretty classic looking Turkey, pretty dry, arid, not much about. And you do this big old climb. I think it's like a 8-mile climb or something, pretty steep. And then you get to the top, which is about, I think, 2,300 meters maybe. I'm not sure exactly the height. Yeah, then it just all changes. And you start to descend down these gravel roads. And then it turns into pure alpine, which I was so shocked about. Pure alpine. It looked like you were in Europe or something. And it's just this insane road just carved out the side of all these mountain valleys. And you descend down to the coast for 45 miles or something like that.
That's a long descent.
It was my favorite day of the trip so far, without a doubt. Was just amazing. And I've got a bike set up to do that stuff as well. To go it's pretty chunky gravel at points as well. But yeah, I can see why it's a dangerous road for sure. I think a lot of people actually die on it. I can't remember the exact statistic. Yeah, I do think quite a few people die on it every year because of how narrow some of the corners are on it. And if you got a car coming down the other way, you're kind of screwed. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend driving up it. A lot of bike tourists as well, a lot of motorbike tourists as well. Yeah, we had met one actually before we had even started the climb up. We had met a motorbike tourer who had just come the other way. He'd gone up the dangerous part and then come down. And he was like, I don't know why it's a road. It shouldn't even be open as a road. Well, fuck, okay. He didn't have very good things to say about it. But no, incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Definitely a time where being on a push bike is actually of an advantage by the sounds of it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, admittedly, he went up instead of going down, so I wouldn't have wanted to do that either. I think if you try to cycle up that, you'd be doing it for about 2.5 days.
Of course, because if you're descending for that long.
Yeah, it would have been a brutal climb up if you were going up there on the bicycle.
Hang on, Malachi, he was on a motorbike,
He wasn't a motorbike though, so there's nothing to complain about really.
Nothing. He's not hauling 50 kilos of bico up something, is he?
Yeah. He's a little bit of a misery, gotta say.
When I think of dangerous roads, the reason that they're dangerous to me is primarily, obviously, because of traffic.
Mm-hmm.
One of the areas that you rode through, and I think you were with Jamie for this as well, was through Russia.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my only understanding of Russia from a bike perspective is like following journeys of people like Mark Beaumont or Jenny Graham, who, you know, cycling around the world. And when they were in Russia, it was like really dangerous. Lots of questionable driving, not much room for pedaling a bike on the roads. And they were quite stressed by it. I want to know, what about for you? Like, I've no idea if you were in the same area of Russia, but what was it like crossing through Russia from a traffic perspective? And then also, what was it like actually going through Russia now at a time in the world with the climate all about Russia? You know, everything is questionable from our end about there. There's a grander mystique about it, obviously, with the war going on too.
Mm-hmm. To be honest with you, I didn't see anything bad with the driving in Russia per se. It was actually all right. Nothing dangerous. The roads were okay. So, I mean, I'll tell you about how we entered the country, because that was kind of a good indicator of how things kind of were in Russia.
Yep.
So we got to the border and handed our passports over, had to fill out this quick form. The guards were really nice, actually. The guards were really friendly. We were having a laugh. They looked through our stuff briefly, not very much. Yeah, I had a good feeling about it at first, and then the woman was really looking through my passport, like, you know, probably flicked through it about 7-8 times. He was making a lot of phone calls. And then as soon as I think we're going to get our passport back, she stands up, walks out, and then gives our passports to some other security guard. And he's like, all right, do you have your phones with you? And so took us to a room. We sat there for about 20 minutes. No one said anything to us. And then they come straight out and then drag us to say, right, give me your phone, give me all your passwords, and write them all down for me. And we're like, okay. And then they take us to like this detention room, this like detention holding cell bit.
Mm-hmm.
We sit in there for about an hour and a half, and then again, no one saying anything to us. Then they finally come out again with me and Jamie's passports, hand us our passports and say, all right, you can go. Right, okay. We leave, get our passports stamped, and then I think we waited 4 hours for Dragos to come out. They had him in there for 4.5 hours or so with his phone. Again, didn't say anything to him, came up, here you go, that's it.
He was in that room for 4.5 hours in like silence, sort of.
4.5 in silence.
Oh, I would be bricking it.
Says he has enough. Yeah.
You know that feeling where, like, even if you're traveling, like luxury Western traveler, you're going from one airport to the other and you're arriving in another country, I always get nervous at like passport control, and I've got nothing to be nervous about.
Same. I think it's just this instinctual thing, isn't it? I don't know.
It is, isn't it? I think everyone knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So yeah, that kind of set the mood for Russia at first. And then we arrived in Vladikavkaz, which is, it's not very nice to see there. It was very what you think a Russian city's going to be like. We saw the big military vehicles with the big white Z painted across them. So you confronted with it almost instantly that this is a militarized state. Like, this country is militarized. And I think that was the most interesting thing to see, because I'd never seen anything like that before. The roads are set up in a way that like, if they're invaded, they can make these massive blockades. And so each city has, before you enter, these massive columns over it, which are meant to it will act as blockades if they get invaded. There's police everywhere, police all over the place. Vladikavkaz is a Christian side as well, Orthodox, and then you enter Chechnya, very strict Muslim, to the point where we were actually pulled over, Dragos specifically, for wearing shorts. Quite aggressively, the guy told him, put your long trousers on now. So you couldn't wear shorts. Yeah, Chechnya, Grozny was all right, the capital city, interesting to see. But again, not a very nice vibe there. I just didn't feel, you just kind of feel on edge. I think that was it with Russia, so I felt kind of always on edge, you know. I don't know if you know about the app iOverlander.
Yes.
We were looking at that, looking at the different checkpoints and stuff like that. And there's so much information of people saying, oh, they tried to scam us. They took our phones, went through our phones, had to pay money. And all these checkpoints. We actually never got stopped by any checkpoints. We just went straight through. I think Jamie was pulled over by a police officer once. And he asked him, why are you here? Or what are you doing? He said, I'm cycling. And that was the end of it. But Dagestan, really beautiful people, really amazing people. Was really surprised as soon as we got to Dagestan, the people were so friendly. But then they don't want to be part of Russia. So, you know, it's very different.
Did you feel like as soon as you reached there, you'd crossed into a total different type of subculture?
Basically, yeah, because they're very different people, very, very different people. Again, not what you just think of as Russia, if that makes sense. Like, I think, especially in the West, we have this very specific idea of what a Russian is. And then when you go there, it's very different. It's an incredibly diverse country. It's made up of so many states as well. So it's similar to like America, where they have states and state leaders, which I had no idea. I wasn't familiar with that. So yeah, it was an interesting country to see, for sure. Would I go back and do the same thing? Probably not. It's also maybe arguably one of the reasons I decided to not go with Jamie to Afghan, purely on the basis because like I knew how I felt in Russia, and I didn't want to feel that again because it wasn't a nice feeling. I didn't like the idea of being in a militarized state, always having to kind of look over my shoulder, worrying about if I do this, am I going to get in trouble, and the potential of being arrested, or all these things that kind of go through your head.
Yeah.
And I remember saying to Jamie, I said, that was one of the reasons I was like, this is not why I'm doing this trip. I don't want to feel like that.
Hey listeners, are you planning your next big bike adventure and wondering how to carry everything you need? Well, Old Man Mountain has you covered with racks and gear designed to fit almost any bike so you can explore further and carry more on your journey. Whether you're going off-road on rugged mountain trails or gearing up for a long-distance bike tour, to everything in between, their gear is tested by adventurers like you who demand both reliability and durability from their equipment. Now, if you're enjoying this episode of Seek Travel Ride and also want to support the podcast, head to oldmanmountain.com/Seek Travel Ride. By visiting this link, you'll not only discover great products for your adventure, but it also helps me keep this show running strong. That link again is oldmanmountain.com/Seek Travel Ride. I've included it in the show notes as well. Thanks for supporting the brands that support the show, and let's get back to the episode. And I guess, listeners, we should actually talk about Jamie a little bit here, Jamie Hargraves, and he is following in his father's footsteps. I think it was 40 years ago, is that right, Malachi? His father took this very journey. And so I think Jamie, is he sort of, I'm not sure, and I'm hoping to be interviewing him very soon for the podcast as well, listeners, so hopefully we'll dig into that story as well. But is he following the route specifically or where possible? And so did his father go through Russia and Afghanistan?
No, so his dad went through Iran. So from here on, it's a bit like, because obviously, look, we can't go through Iran for whatever reason.
At the moment, no.
Well, definitely not at the moment, no. But as a British citizen, it's very difficult to go through into Iran. It's almost near impossible. Like Americans and British can't go in, pretty much. So yeah, obviously he didn't want to do that. So I'm not going to try and ruin, obviously your interview. But yeah, he's very set on the idea that he wants to cycle the entire thing. And incredible, like hats off to the kid. He's an inspiring guy. Like he's really, really taught me a lot, helped me a lot, and inspires me all the time.
And you've built such a friendship.
Oh yeah, I mean, as soon as I met the guy, it was like we've known each other forever. Like we just instantly clicked like that. And a friend for life.
How much of this journey, like in time, must be like nearly a couple of months or 3 months maybe even?
It was almost 3 months, yeah. So it was funny, just before we left each other, we were like, we had both been with each other more than we haven't, which was like, oh shit.
And also, when you think of it, in this style, we've all got our friends at home, which when it boils down to it, often you're just seeing them occasionally, right? Like you're friends, but you're not seeing them all day, every day. Whereas on this type of a journey, you're with them from morning to night, you're sleeping in the same area, you're eating at the same places, you're on the same part of the road.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You probably know more about Jamie than you would some of your own friends at home.
Yeah, you learn so. You go through so much. You have those really low moments together as well. So, like you said earlier, like fast friendships. That's what it was, and you really just learn to adapt. And some people can't look. I know there's other people that like you meet someone and you're like, you're done with them after 5 days. And I don't think it was the case with that. You have an argument or falling out. We never had that. We never had an argument. We never had a disagreement. There was never a point where we're like, I don't think I want to be with this guy anymore. It was just on the same wavelength. So it was really special to have that experience, to meet someone like Jamie. Yeah, it's very far and few between. That doesn't come often,
So, I'm going to call you the three amigos, even though that's obviously not what you were. But, so Jamie, yourself, and Dragos as well. You spent time together, obviously, and gosh, just even the idea of going through that whole customs control border point in Russia, that's a bonding moment in itself, right?
Yeah.
You all then you were cycling along through, was it Kazakhstan, where
Yeah.
Dragos, he ended up having he got taken out by a truck, didn't he?
Yeah, so it was the wing mirror of a truck clipped his shoulder. We didn't see it. This is the thing. Me and Jamie didn't see it because Dragos is an excellent cyclist, very fast. We didn't see it happen. Jamie saw it first, and then I obviously cycled up, and I could see them two kind of looked mangled. So I thought maybe they had crashed into each other. And then I roll up, and actually Dragos pretty bloody and beaten up, and this big truck, and I'm like, oh my god. Just the wing mirror clipped him, flung him off his bike, and broke his shoulder bone. So we were lucky it happened where he was. Like, if we had been in the remote Kazakhstan, that would have been it. Like, we wouldn't have known what to do. So we were lucky enough that there was a hospital there, and then we were about 4 miles away from the town that me and Jamie could load his bike up into a truck that we flagged down, and then we could go and cycle and go to the hospital and wait for it. Had that been anywhere else, he would have been on his own for a bit, you know?
In pain, injured on your own too.
Yeah, really hard time.
We were talking about, being physically ill yourself. There's an element where this is like a stomach sickness. You've dunked some bad water, and it's not going to be pleasant for a few days, but you're going to get over it. Seeing, a cycling companion be injured in that manner, I guess it puts front in mind the vulnerability of what you're doing on the roads as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, it just takes one stray car to come, and that's it. You're gone. And there's nothing you can do about that. But I think you become content with that almost as well. Like, obviously you don't make you stupid risks for the sake of it, but you become a bit more content with the idea that, you just got to trust that you are going to be all right.
So you sort of have to give in to that, don't you, whenever you take a trip that involves a road, because otherwise you're not going to get anywhere.
No, of course.
You'll just be so full of fear that the trip doesn't even happen.
Yeah.
But still, I want to know, like, in that moment, though, you're seeing your friend in pain, off to hospital, and he then had to fly back home and, his trip's on pause. I'm not sure where he is in his rehabilitation, whether he plans to, rejoin his trip. But when it's then back down to yourself and Jamie, how are you both dealing with those events together?
Yeah, I think it was difficult because obviously, you've been traveling with this guy. We built an amazing relationship, and Dragos was going to come with me all the way to Australia. It's really rough. When we met Dragos in Batumi, he was only supposed to be cycling from Romania to Georgia, Armenia, and then back through Turkey to Romania to go continue his job because he's a geology professor.
Hi, Dragos. And actually, quickly, Dragos, I wish you a full and speedy recovery, by the way.
Yeah, he'll be back out. Don't you worry. If anyone's going to be back out, he's going to be back out. He's already told me he's going to come back out. So Dragos is not gone. We will see him again in the trip somewhere. Hopefully Nepal, maybe. We'll see. Because it's a 9-week rehabilitation, and then he'll be back on the bike, I hope. But yeah, it was difficult. He'd left his job. Well, took a sabbatical year. And I think 3 days before it happened or something, 3 or 4 days, he got confirmation that he had a year off to do it. And then disaster struck. So it was really heartbreaking. That was a really difficult time because even the day before, one of my friends had passed away. I was dealing with that, and then Dragos was hit. So it was just like this accumulation of shit that really was heavy.
That was like an intense amount of grief to hit you all at once. Like, I can't even imagine what that's like, especially in a place so far away.
Yeah.
You don't have the comforts of catching up with people. I'm actually grateful you were with Jamie for that moment.
Oh, same. And it was sad because Dragos was so comforting in that moment as well. And then, seeing him so vulnerable then as well, because he was almost like this big dad to me and Jamie, because especially there, because, he could speak a bit of Russian, so he helped us out so much. And he's a very intelligent man. He's got his wits about him at all times. And he's very cultured as well. He's a well-traveled man, so a wealth of information. Yeah, it was really hard. I think it's something I've still not kind of got over. I'll always miss that and think about how this trip would have been if he was here now.
And I guess also just the experiences you had with him, how that's impacted on you and who you are. Without trying to get too philosophical and deep and meaningful here, obviously meeting the man, being there, having him sort of as a father figure in brackets there on the road, like that impacts you and your experiences and will do from here on to the rest of Australia. And I wholeheartedly hope he joins you somewhere along the way.
Yeah, me too. I'm sure. Yeah, there's a lot of unfinished business there. And me and Dragos, we all had an amazing connection. So funny enough, Dragos had never cycled really with anyone that long before. He's a solo cyclist. You'll say that now as well, that he's a solo cyclist. And he met us and he was just like, these guys, there's something about these guys, man. Something about these two guys. And he loved it. And we convinced him to stay. He didn't want to go through Russia. And he was like, nah, I'm not going to do it. And then you got him and he came with us through Russia. And yeah.
And he's very much part of your experience too.
Yeah, for sure. So glad I got the chance to meet him and ride with him for the time I did. Because, yeah, as you said, he taught me a lot. He really helped me grow as well as a person. And, just an amazing man.
You must have been really happy when you finally got out of Kazakhstan, because that sounded like where it was the brutal sector, right?
To be honest with you, I was happy when I got here. I kind of was over the stans, so, not that it was bad, it was just... It felt like cycling for the sake of just getting through the country to say I've cycled it.
There's amazing places, but the in-between parts is not much, right?
Yeah, so from where we entered from Astrakhan in Russia to Kazakhstan, firstly you're cycling in Russia, there's not much about, you kind of going quick, we only had 10 days to do this trip through Russia. And I'll quickly add that we were the last people to actually get a transit visa to go through Russia. And you can't do that anymore to cycle.
Oh, wow. That's been a total roadblock now.
Yeah. So if you want to go to Yerevan to go get your 10-day transit visa to cycle, they're going to tell you to go away.
And actually, just quickly, you remember when I was mentioning Marielle Jaring earlier, the Swedish adventurer, who is possibly in India right now. She went through Russia. It must have been around the similar time. And she had problems with an e-visa. She got to a border or a crossing point where she couldn't actually cross, because they didn't accept e-visas at that point. And she didn't know that her card wouldn't work when she was there either.
Oh, no.
She had no money.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah. Listeners, if you haven't already, listen back to her episode, but she had an incredible time having to hitchhike, I don't know, was it 400 or 700 kilometers all the way back without money, without food.
So I'll explain to you. So basically in Russia, e-visas is, because you looked into this, you can only enter. So you can enter one border, and to leave, you have to leave via the exact same border.
Yeah, so that's why she had to go back, exactly.
The only way to do it is on a tourist visa. If you can get a tourist visa English, I think it's quite difficult still. Yeah, that's the only other option now, is to get a tourist visa, or you get the 3-day transit visa in Tbilisi and you get a train or a bus across. Yeah, so cycling there is going to be a big no-no now for some people.
The stands, you were well and truly over them. And, I've interviewed people about their Silk Road experience. And I guess this is where it's not all about the amazing history and the beautiful towns with the beautiful mosaics and the tiles and the buildings. Because when you are getting to those places, you must be blown away by it.
Yeah. So, put it this way. The first thing I saw in the stands was Kiva. That was the first bit of architectural history that I saw. Otherwise, it was nothing.
Mega.
Incredible. Blew me away. And
oh gosh, your camera would have got a workout, Malachi.
Yeah, it did. I think I filled my memory card at that point as well. So it's like frantically deleting old pictures, trying to get enough space to take another picture. But yeah, so look, maybe it's the way we went. So Kazakhstan, I can't tell you much about Kazakhstan because that section there was nothing to see. So what my experience is all just from the people and the interactions I had there. And incredible people. Really, really friendly. Some of the most hospitable people that I've come into contact with are from the stands. But yeah, I think towards the end now, I was just like, again, so much stuff happened there that I was just over it. I was just over it. It was, lost Dragos, and it was just difficult cycling, consistent headwinds. Very cold as well. We're talking down to -3, -4 in the night some days. It was a real test. It really, really pushed me. So yeah, I just couldn't wait to get to kind of just a big call. I wanted a culture change as well. I think that was it. I was just getting a bit this is the same thing over and over and over again now. I need something different. I need something a bit more stimulating. And I think that was what it was.
Hey, awesome listeners. Are you loving what you're hearing on Seek Travel Ride? Do you want to keep the good vibes rolling? Then head over to our Buy Me a Coffee page and show your support for the podcast. Just a little virtual caffeine love can keep me brewing up the content which you adore. Click the link in the show notes, buy me a virtual coffee, and let's keep this podcast party going. Thanks, legends. Now back to the episode.
And we'll come to how you came to be in New Delhi very quickly, but I guess because of the time of year that you're travelling, I'm guessing that continuing your journey on over the Pamir Highway is just a no-no, right? Because of winter?
Yeah, pretty much. So, I mean, I don't think you can really do it now. I think a lot of the roads might, I don't know if they close or not. I'm not too sure, but talking down to like minus 20 degrees at some points if you're up in altitude. Look, I really wanted to do the Pamir Highway. Originally, that was me and Jamie's plan as we were going to go into Dushanbe, try and do the Pamir. Then it was just our weather window is just too small, so we couldn't do that in the end. Like I've said this to myself, is that because obviously I had to skip from Bukhara to Tashkent, is that one day I'd like to go back and I'd like to cycle that section again, but do the Pamir Highway as well. I mean, it's on my list. I know I'll be back there. I want to see the mountains of the Stans. I didn't see the mountains of the Stans, and that's arguably one of the most incredible features in the Stans is the mountains there, and I didn't see too many of those.
It's a lot of the reason why people go through those endless deserts is to get to the mountains.
Exactly. They didn't feel like there was a reward almost. Like, give me a massive mountain, let me climb all day long because I'm going to get to the top and have an amazing view and I'm going to descend. There was no reward like that after the cycling. It was just difficult, camp, difficult. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was just very persistent and...
Yeah, and it wears you down like a heavy ball and chain around your neck. If you need things to... I guess change things up a bit too. If we get to, like, you are in New Delhi now, and listeners, I don't know about you, I've actually really enjoyed hearing the hustle and bustle of the chaos of New Delhi behind you there, Malachi. Like, every now and then I hear a train rolling through, I can hear beeps on the horn. Yeah, I can just, and, I've never been to India, so I'm just trying to imagine what that's like. But your reason for, fast forwarding or, getting yourself on a flight there was... From one reason, listening to you now, you needed a change of scenery, but the other reason was you were nursing a knee that wasn't too happy cycling through those conditions, weren't you? Yeah, so
I think it was just like, I've suffered with a lot of knee injuries in my life, and it was one of my biggest fears, actually, injury-wise, was that I was going to get a knee injury because, they can take a while to heal. I think my last knee injury took almost 4 or 5 months to heal properly. But this is, funny enough, my first ever injury on the bike in terms of, from cycling. But I think it was just a case of that it was just hard, difficult cycling because, in the winds, you're cycling these flat roads, but it's constant pedaling, it's constant pressure because it's like you're cycling uphill all the time. There's no alleviation on your legs. You're just constantly pushing. Weeks of that will take its toll, as it did. But it's feeling a lot better now. Like, it's feeling the best it's felt. It started feeling really great as soon as I got to India. I don't know what that's all about, but as soon as I got here, nothing, no pain, nothing. So, back on the bike tomorrow.
Long may that continue. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm hoping it's all good now. And India right now is very easy, flat, up until I get into the Himalayas. Should be some easy cycling for this.
I was going to ask what your journey through India was going to be like and which direction you were going to be taking it. You're heading to the mountains?
Yeah, so I'm going to be heading to Agra first to go see the Taj Mahal. And then down to Jaipur, which is, I think they call it the Pink City. And then I'll be going, I think, along the border of Pakistan and then up into the mountains.
Is it like around near Amritsar?
I think so. I think that's also meant to be a really beautiful city as well. And so then I'm going to head up into the mountains a bit, just do some stuff there and then make my way to Nepal. And then,
And then, wow, as a landscape photographer lover, the Himalayas have called to me for so long. I'm excited, actually, Malachi, because I'll get to see your images.
Yeah.
That will be amazing.
Yeah. I'm excited as well. It's the one country I've always wanted to visit. I'm incredibly excited. And hopefully we'll see a return of Jamie there as well. Hopefully. Hopefully what we've planned is hopefully in Nepal that we can meet up again if everything goes to plan.
Did you ever... Gosh, this sounds so stupid. It's stupid of me to ask, but did you ever actually give both of yourselves as a duo a name?
No, we didn't. No, we didn't actually. No, we didn't. I think the one that's...
You should open that up to your Instagram on a reel when you both get together.
Well, we were... I think one that stuck with us and we found hilarious was they called us Thor and Loki. which was quite funny.
I could so see
Which is
why.
hilarious. Which we always found quite funny.
There is a Viking aspect almost to both of you, though.
Yeah. So that was what we went with, was Thor and Loki.
Hang on, who is who?
Well, I think Jamie's obviously Thor because, I mean, if you've seen him, right? His bleached blonde hair, he looks like a bloody Viking.
Yep.
Yeah, so.
So then India in this section, because I know you're with some people there now as well, is the plan to sort of stick together with a few people, or when you leave, are you trying to go solo again?
Well, so you probably know Sam.
Yes.
Back in the world, so I'm with him.
Hey, Sam, reach out to me, Sam. I'm keen to share your story.
He's with a mate, and then I'm obviously with Ben, who we had met in Kazakhstan. So I think we're all going to cycle now for a bit to Agra and then Jaipur, and then we go our separate ways. Yeah, I think he's got a different route. He's going down, and I'm going up. Yeah, but nice to meet the guy. He actually saved me out of a really tricky situation. So I've not had a credit card for a while now. So my first card broke in Thessaloniki, and then so I had another one.
Wow.
Yeah, well, it got hacked, and then doing an online payment, so I had to cancel it. Got the money back, it was all fine, but I had to cancel that card.
Yeah, and now you're on the road without a credit card. Oh, my goodness.
Well, that was the one. I had another spare, and then that one got demagnetized in Kazakhstan somehow. No idea how.
Which means it's useless.
Basically, yeah. So I couldn't draw money. I couldn't do anything with it. Yeah, so I've been kind of relying on other people to draw me money and stuff like that, which is not a nice feeling. But yeah, so his dad flew out to him in Tbilisi. We got in contact, and I posted the cards to his parents' house, and they brought it over for me.
Oh, what a way to problem solve yet again.
Yeah. And it's great. I think it's one of these things because he got into contact via the Cycling East chat and said, "Oh, my dad's coming over." So I dropped him a message, and so we had spoken a couple of times before. Yeah, it's a great thing. It's another one of the community in the bicycle touring scene here is that people always try their best to help you.
You know how you're in India there? I always joke, Malachi, that I'm a food lover, so I cannot have a podcast episode not talk about food.
Yeah, I'm a big food lover myself. I mean, before this, I was a chef, so you know.
Oh my goodness me! So you were traveling with that mindset. Okay, well.
Oh, I love food. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you've only just gotten to India, so I'm not sure what you've managed to eat there. But tell me about something that you've tried from wherever that's blown your mind. Like, what sort of food experience have you had that was just like, this is why I'm traveling?
Oh, this is a good one. I mean, I can't say I've been eating too much. I mean, Turkey was pretty much just like freaking kebabs every day.
How amazing is Turkey for food?
Oh, food is incredible. So fresh.
It is. The bread, the cheeses.
Everything. It's just beautiful. Yeah. The Stans were interesting because that's a completely different cuisine. Well, I mean, you get to try things like horse, camel.
Yeah.
Both incredibly delicious meats, if I'm very honest with you. Very, very tasty. I think that's what I think it's been a set. I mean, India here, I've had a couple meals out and they just blow me away. You know, coming from England where...
You would have a high bar for Indian cuisine. There's a lot of people that say some of the best Indian food is in England as well.
Maybe, but like, I mean, a classic Indian takeaway, but you're having it here. It's like, yes, it's not the same. Can't even compare the two. It's just so different here. And they give you so many different things that I've never even had before with the curry. And it's beautiful. It's really good. I'm so excited to travel and try more of the food. I haven't tried any of the market stalls yet. I think I'll get on the road before that.
You know, we were talking about being stomach sick before and, you know, the good old, what is it, the colloquial term, deli belly.
Yeah.
There is almost an element, like when you're in India, you're sort of thinking, oh, this is going to happen at some point. I guess it can't put you off trying out the street food.
No. I don't, like I said, I think these things are, if it happens, it happens, right? It's just, it's not a bad thing. It's just the microbiomes that you're not used to in your guts. And that's it. It's not necessarily you've eaten some dodgy food. Like, yeah, sure, if you eat some uncooked meat, you might get sick. Yeah, it's just that your body's not used to all the stuff that they eat, and that's it. And your body just reacts a bit differently. But, once you have that, you'll be all right. Suddenly gets a bit more stronger.
Malachi, you have to do me a favour, and sorry, listeners, you don't get to get this, but you have to message me when you had like a meal that's blown your socks off, and say, Bella,
yeah.
this is the meal you were thinking of.
All right. That's
Promise?
The deal. I'll do that. Promise. I got that.
Awesome. Well, I want you now, Malachi, to do something that I've asked all my guests to do. And that is to take me and the listeners to one day of your trip. It can be from any day, any country, anywhere. It can be an amazing day. It can be a day that really tested you. But I want you to tell us all about that day.
I'll do Karanlik Canyon, Dark Canyon in Turkey, because that was a really cool day. So we'd had a great camp the night before on this river, a really beautiful spot. So set off and instantly greeted with a really nasty hill, very hot. Then a big truck driver comes along, hands us out 2 waters, which is really kind of him. And then finally get to the top, and then we can start to see where Dark Canyon is going to start. And then, so Dark Canyon is this massive canyon in Turkey with the Euphrates River running right inside of it. So we get to the top, and then we can see the big, they're all mining there as well. So you have this crazy view of the mountains and this complete contrasting view of them just mining away, which is really beautiful. Down those like snaking roads, and then we finally arrive at the entrance of the canyon. And yeah, you're just on these beautiful gravel tracks the whole time. They've blown out massive tunnels in the side of the mountain, which are just incredible, but no light. So you're cycling in the pitch black with like a head torch on, and all you can see is just dust in front of you, just coming in your face because there's obviously cars going through there. It came out like a different shade of color at the end of it, but with beautiful turquoise water as well. Yeah, we spent so much time there. It was incredible. And then you finally get shot out. And then we stopped at a little cafe right along the Euphrates River there. And we dossed about there for about 3 hours, I think, just because we had this massive 7-mile climb to do and we just did not want to do it. It was incredibly hard. Finally, we did, though. Brutal climb, really difficult. And then, but the descending was just insane. One of the most crazy fast descents of my entire life. We ended up at this beautiful place called BD Cafe. And if you're ever in that side of the world, go check it out. These are bike touring friendly cafe who will let you stay there for free for the night. We ended up staying there for 2 days in the end. And yeah, got there. Lovely. We stayed up late into the night drinking raki with him. Yeah, really good day. Really good day. But yeah, I hope that gave you a good picture at least.
Mega. Like, again, a place I've never heard of before, and I can just imagine those views. But then there's also that mix of adventure there. You know, when you're in a place you can't see ahead, all you see is dust, and then you come out a different colour. I could just imagine that. But also that turquoise water.
Oh yeah. It was mind blowing. I think, well, again, one of the top days for sure. So beautiful.
One of the top days of many that you've had, and I hope that you're just absolutely bursting with excitement for the many more that are to come before you get to Australia as well.
Yeah. It's going to be completely different. It's always changing. It's always changing.
You know what's wild, Malachi, is like reflecting back on a map. I know I mentioned to you before I press record, like even just looking where you are now to where you were when you started, how far you've come. All the stories and experiences from all those little points on a map. I'm not sure if you're the sort of person that'll get a map out and actually draw the line of your route on it for when you finish. But imagine if you did do that, just what you'd be thinking about in that moment as well.
Yeah.
This is such a long journey and you're only really halfway through it. It's interesting because it's such a long journey, but it feels like it's been such a short amount of time as well. It's not like it's been years and years.
No.
You've condensed years' worth of experiences into months.
Yeah.
Trips like this change people because I guess you experience the world, you're experiencing cultures, you've gone through stuff, you've problem solved day after day, and you're living life moment to moment from when you wake up to, in that bike touring fashion. When you reflect back, what do you reflect on for yourself? Like, do you see a different person now to when you set off from the UK?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think I've changed quite significantly. I think it's one of these things. It's almost inevitable when you do something like this, when you go through so many different extremes that you change as a person. Your outlook changes, the way you interact with certain situations changes, how you think even changes everything. Yeah, I say so. Yeah, I was a very different person to where I started to what I am now, and for the best, though, in a good way. I would say. But yeah, you're constantly evolving. Each day, you constantly evolve. You're constantly changing, and because each interaction shapes who you are and shapes you in a different way.
And I guess you're constantly learning too, aren't you?
Yeah. Always.
The right way to travel, with that open mind of learning, changing, experiencing.
For sure. Because, obviously, again, and each culture is different. So each culture you learn something new and you have to adapt to grow and to interact with them in that way.
It's a constant theme where I talk about people who've travelled vast distances and we talk about the strangers that you meet on the road. You're talking about, BB Cafe on that day of your trip, and the owners are so welcoming to bike travellers, or even at the start of that day, truck drivers handing you food. Has that been something that sort of you went into this trip sort of expecting would happen, or has the kindness of strangers constantly, has that sort of blown you away as well?
I think it has. I mean, obviously, look, I've watched a lot of videos of people do it before, so I knew that it happened. But it always blows me away every time it does happen. I still remember the first time I had that first bit of kindness, and it was in Austria. Me and Ralph had woken up in the morning, we were packing up our tent, and his name escapes me now, but such an incredible man. Pulled up with his car, so he's like, "You guys all right?" And asked what we're doing. We explained to him, he's like, "Would you want to come to mine for breakfast?" And we're like, "Yeah, sure." He walked his dog quickly, and then we followed him back in his car. And yeah, he cooked us a lovely breakfast, let us have a shower. We met his son, we had a lovely conversation, and that was the first, and it blew me away. I just remember how happy that made me feel. Both me and Ralph were just biggest grins on our faces. I think I called my mum straight away after and explained to her, like, "Oh, this just happened." And yeah, it was Germany as well, not Austria, it was a German. Such a beautiful experience. And then, yeah, there's been lots of stuff like that. Italy as well, Mauro and Roberta, two of the friendliest people I've ever met. They were a couple and saw us at a pub, and we got chatting, and they were like, come sleep in our garden. Cooked us a massive dinner, slept, I stayed out late in the morning, drinking with them. It was, it's so incredible. And they didn't really speak much English either. And I think that's another thing on the ship, is the power of the Google Translate, is that it has helped me so much to interact with these people, to have those experiences.
Actually, what I've picked up from a few travellers, and it's people travelling into areas where they know that they're not necessarily going to be in reception, but they've sort of taken the time ahead to sort of write details about themselves and what their general trip is in the local language on a piece of paper, so they can actually show it to people if they're not in reception. And that has been a really helpful thing, because it's one thing to get by with body language and stuff, but just the magic that's happened when, without the translation facilities, you've been able to tell people in a way, hey, this is me, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm travelling for. It's sort of been an even bigger door opener to that curiosity amongst strangers as well. Because you do stick out like a sore thumb, don't you? Like,
oh yeah, for sure.
You're not
They
travelling
like,
light.
what?
You've got a load on your bike. No. What is this person?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it always helps if you can learn a bit of the language as well. I think in the Stans, it was they all speak Russian there. So obviously going through Russia, Dragos could understand a bit of Russian. His mum spoke a bit of Russian as well. So he helped in terms of learning a bit of Russian that helped me get by through the Stans pretty much. Like,
even just a short phrase or two helps a lot.
Yeah, exactly. You can understand what they're saying more or less to get you by. But another thing is you can download the languages now as well. I don't know so you can download languages onto Google Translate to so that even if you've got no reception, you've got the language there. It's ready to go, downloaded. Yeah, which is really handy.
I always get super excited chatting to people like you, Malachi, where I've had the benefit of speaking to you midway, because I get excited hearing what you've done, but I get excited for future you of what you get to experience as well. And as an Aussie, it's a long way to Australia from New Delhi, and there's so much in between that you're going to be joining the dots on. You must be super pumped and excited for it. I certainly am. I'm certainly going to be keeping an eye on your Instagram and seeing where this journey takes you.
Yeah.
As I look to wrap the show up, I've got 3 questions which I finish up with and I ask all my guests. So these ones, I don't think they're too hard. They are short and sharp, so we'll start. The first one's music related. If you had to pick a song and it had to be the soundtrack to your journey here, this bike adventure, what song are you picking? And Malachi, that song gets added for you on the Seek Travel Ride music playlist.
Oh, okay. Maybe Old Man by Neil Young.
Ooh.
So I like that song. It's a good song. It's a lovely song. Yeah, I'll go with that one.
Is it one you find yourself listening to? Or?
Yeah. I mean, I came across it when I was a young kid, and it's always one that's stuck with me. And my dad loves the song as well. He also loves that song. So, yeah, it's a good one.
Love it. Well, Old Man by Neil Young, you are there, and everyone, listeners, you can find the Seek Travel Ride music playlist on Apple and Spotify. Malachi, it's over 5 hours long, so if you have a long day ahead of you and you need some, and it's eclectic.
Nice.
Because all our guests are different, and it's going to take you all around the world. So you don't know from one song to the next what sort of beats are going to hit, but they are songs, funnily enough, you feel like you're on a journey with them.
Good, yeah.
It's just like a world tour. Every country's different. Every song's got a different feel.
Yeah, very true.
All right, last two questions. This one, Malachi, you're given a choice one day and you can choose to ride on the most beat up, corrugated, never-ending bumpy road of your life. And I'm talking like proper corrugations here, like bone jarring.
Yeah.
Or alternatively, you could choose to ride into a never-ending headwind that's persistently got you travelling at like 5 or 6 k's an hour. Which one are you going to choose?
Probably the corrugator, to be honest with you. Yeah, it's a bit more exciting than the headwind, at least.
You would have had some washboard corrugations on this trip, right?
Yeah. I've had a lot of it. And yeah, it's not fun for sure, but look, I'm a gravel rider. That's what I like to do. It's what my favourite thing is. And yeah, it's way more exciting than a headwind, I'll tell you that.
There we go. Oh, I bet you've had corrugations with a headwind, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's really fun.
Oh, that's grim. That's where you need some good music to get you through.
Oh, yeah.
Final question for you, Malachi. This is a fairly recent one. And that is, I want you to finish this sentence for me. The best thing about taking a bike adventure is... How are you going to finish that for me?
Best thing about taking a bike venture is that your home is always with you.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Can I ask, other than obviously the practical possessions of, like a tent and a sleeping bag and all that, have you got like a little memento or something to remind you of home? I know we have phones with photos, but is there something personal from home that you're carrying along with you on the bike?
No, I wouldn't say so. I have a letter my mum wrote me, which I hold on to in my wallet.
Oh, that's special.
Yeah, and I've only read that once, but I've not touched it again since. I think I'll find it. I'll read it again when the time comes. But that's about it really. Otherwise, I don't necessarily have anything like that. No.
But I do love your answer there, that your home is always with you. I love it. I love this question. I've changed it up, listeners, in the last few episodes. So it's going to be interesting over the next course of so many to see what answers we come up with. Wow, Malachi, what a journey you've had. What a journey you're on. As I said, I'm super pumped. It's been so great to spend time chatting with you and to hear about how your adventure has unfolded from, the learnings that you must have had since, buying the bike for the first time and taking that first adventure for 2 weeks up and down Wales and down the Welsh coast to where those two wheels have taken you now. There is undoubtedly going to be so much more adventures still to come because whilst this trip is a whole big adventure, there are mini adventures along the way as well. Things that you didn't know existed will happen. Challenges that will come your way, you will overcome. I am so excited for you. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, insights and experiences here on the podcast for Seek Travel Ride.
Yeah, and thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I've loved chatting with you. I hope we get to have another conversation again at some point.
Virtual handshake across from me to you there. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's reconnect and join the dots. That'll be fantastic.
Sounds great. Maybe even meet for a drink in Oz, eh?
Yeah. Well, my home's actually in the French Pyrenees.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay.
So you know how you said that you love mountains?
Yes.
And you love the mountain landscapes of Europe. Oh, there was a big part of me that was a little bit sad that you missed out on the Pyrenees. So one bike adventure comes to a close, you've always got to have a goal for your next adventure.
Yeah,
so
for sure,
you might need to just cross the Pyrenees mountains and meet me halfway there.
Sounds good.
I'll pour you a drink and we'll share a few stories. That would be great.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, and all the best.
Well, listeners, what did you think of Malachi and his adventure? There were a few things that I especially liked. I liked that he sort of said right at the outset about that naivety of not knowing what you're in for on a long tour, but he sort of also embraced it as well when he was talking about the mechanical that hit him on day one when he'd arrived in France. But it was never a case of, oh my goodness, how am I going to get through this? It was more a case of, well, I've got to get through this. And somehow, and this is a theme with all of my guests, is you can always find a way. And I really loved hearing Malachi give his version of that. I also loved that this journey has been one where he's made, as we say, those fast friendships. He set out for this journey with his friend with the intention that eventually it would be a solo journey, and yet, as he said, he spent the majority of it with others and in the company of people he'd never met before. Yet somehow he's clicked with that dynamic, and a lot of that journey now has become a shared experience. I guess what that links to is that idea of flexibility, of not over-planning and not overthinking what your trip's going to be like, but sort of giving yourself up to fate in a way, and allowing yourself to change from what you thought might occur at the very start of your trip and allow the happenstance of circumstances to shape what your adventure will turn into as well. It's clear to me that Malachi has made some lifelong friends on this journey, some people that he will forever be able to share stories with. And I love that sort of community of bike travellers on the road there, sharing the trip with each other as well. Thank you, Malachi, for sharing your experiences. And as I said earlier, I can't wait to see where this adventure takes you and the experiences that are coming your way. Now, listeners, if you've had any value out of listening to these episodes that I'm sharing of amazing adventurers taking on bike journeys, do me a favour, show your appreciation and hit the Buy Me a Coffee link in the show notes. By keeping me virtually caffeinated, you are keeping these episodes rolling out each and every week and getting your hit of content and wanderlust to put towards inspiring yourself to take your own bike adventures as well. And until the next episode, I'm Bella Malloy. Thanks for listening.